So now let's get started. So just go to Google and type Hour of Code, or you may go directly to their website, hourofcode.com.
We are still at the web page, and after clicking activities, it will link us to this page. As we can see right here, there are a lot of activities catering to different grades, such as pre-reader, grades 2 to 5, grades 6 to 8, and grades 9 and above. Looking at the left side, we can select different categories to filter out if we're looking for a specific activity we want to do. So after that, let's scroll back and choose an activity. So right now, what we're going to choose is poem art. Poem art is a great activity for grades 2 to 8. It would help learners to illustrate the mood of a poem using code. And as we can see right here, there are linked texts for teacher notes and a short link. It also specifies the category of the activity as a beginner type. After clicking start, it will route us to this page. You can see two options: poem art for an hour that can be done as self-paced, and another for coding poetry with a duration of 1 week. But right now, let's click at this one.
So now let's start with level 1. So in the drag down button, we can see and select different poems that we like. So for now, we're going to stick with the star. And here we can see instructions that we have to read a poem, and we're going to base our coding with the feeling that we get from the poem after reading it. So first, let's set the font to Times. We have different options there also. And set the text color to violet. We're just going to drag the blocks to the workspace tab. So for the text effect, there's also choices that we could choose from. And for now, we're going to choose a typewriter effect. So it's up to you, depending on the feeling that you get from the poem. And for the background, there's actually 3 choices. So it depends on you if you want a color, a background image, or a background effect. So in a background effect, you choose frosted, rainbow, and a lot more. And for the background image, there's a lot of images also that you could choose from. But for now, we're going to stick with the background color to yellow because the poem is about a star. And now let's run the poem, or let's run the animation. And you can see the font as Times, the text color as violet, the text effect with typewriter, and the background to yellow. And that's basically it for level 1. And now let's proceed to level 2. For level 2, we're going to read a poem and answer what sound and images came to our mind after reading it. So we're just going to type an answer and press run to watch and listen to the poem animation. And my answer would be notes and birds, because the poem is about sing and like the birds singing, so I think it would be best if we would apply notes and birds on it. So let's click the run button to see how it goes. And you can hear the chirping of the birds and the notes as well. It has notes in the background, music. That's basically it for level 2. So now we're going to proceed to level 3. And level 3, we're going to add sounds and music to our program so that it could change how the poem would feel while we're reading it. So here's a list of instructions. We're just going to add a new sound or music block to our code here in the workspace tab. So here in the drag down button, we can select different poems, several poems that we could choose from, but now we're going to stick with toasting marshmallows. And now we're going to start coding. So first, we're going to drag the play music block here in the workspace tab under the when run button. So in the music, you have a lot of music to choose from, but let's stay it as fireside. Next is for the sound. We're going to set it as typewriter. Next is for the font. There's also a lot of choices, but for now we're going to choose Arial. It's up to you actually, but for me, Arial would fit for the poem. And then the text color, let's set it as blue. And for the text effect, we have typewriter. And for the background, we're going to have it with sky blue. So as mentioned earlier, you can choose different backgrounds. Still depends on you. We have color, we have images, we also have background effects like shifting and the dawn. So for now, I'm going to stick with the blue background. So now let's press the run button and we can see the effects, the music, the sound that we had coded. So we can see the Arial font, the text color with blue, the text effect typewriter, and also the sound of a typewriter, and the background as sky blue. So that's basically it for level 3.
Now let's proceed to level 4. So we have here the poem art video. So if you don't have any internet connection, you can just check the notes here and then you will see the transcript of the video. Now let's start coding. So before we start coding, please, we'll just have to check the instructions above the blocks and the workspace space so that we can verify what we are going to do to this level. So at the left portion, we can see the drop down button where we're going to select the poem. So for now, let's just take on the affirmation poem. Now let's start coding. So let's just drag the one line shows block, and for this one we have to select the number of the poem or number of the line that we would want to have that animation or effect be shown on the poem. So for this one, let's just select number 1. Now let's drag the do effect block, and for this one, let's just have that as green. So let's stick to what was shown on that block. Next, let's drag the play music block, and let's just stay that one as it is. Then we go ahead and drag the play sound block. Next to that is we now set the font. So for this one, let's choose Arial, and now we set the text color. Then after we set the text color, we set the text effect as fade. And next is we go ahead and add text highlight. So after we add the text highlight, we go ahead and set the background. So again, we do have 3 other options for this background. So we can select a background color, we can select a background image, and then we can set background to an effect that we would want to be shown on the poem. So for this one, let's just set the background color as yellow. The next, we go ahead and just do what we did earlier. So we'll just have to repeat the process. So under the one line shows block, so that is set as number 2, we just continue the process, or we just repeat the process that was done above. So we just drag the do effect block. Next, we drag the play music block. Then we drag the play sound block. After that, we drag the set font block. So let's just say that one as Arial. After we set the text color, then we set the text effect. Of course, we add text highlight. And lastly, we again set the background color, background image or effect. Then we set the frame. Okay, so that's the last process. So after that, we'll just have to click run in order for us to check or to make sure that the effect changes when the line we want appears on the screen, just to make sure that all of the effects match a new line in the poem. So after that, we're just going to reset if we would want to repeat the process, and we're done with level 4. Now let's proceed with level 5. So for this one, we can see here the poem in the left portion, so don't go into the library. So it says here the instructions, so we just have to read the poem. What images comes to mind? So that is book. So after we type our answer, we press run to check the animation, and just verify that one on the left portion by checking on the poem, and we're done with level 5. Next, we proceed with level 6. So for this one, poets use words to paint a picture in the reader's mind. So we just add sprites to go with the images that come to our mind when we read a poem. So when we say images, or sprite rather, that is emoticons. So we start coding now. We just drag the make new sprite at, so the number indicated at the drop down button it's more like a coordinate X and Y. So we just drag all of the blocks here on the workspace until we are done. So we'll just have to repeat the process as what was shown on the previous levels. So we just select the preferred option that we would want, such as the music, the sound, the font, the text color, the text effect. Then of course, most importantly, we set the background. After that, we'll just have to click on run in order for us to check if all of the sprites go with the images that comes to our mind, or all of the changes was done or shown on the poem. So as you can see in the left portion on the poem, it's slowly showing the effects that we just did on the coding. So if you would want to check the code that you just did, you just have to click on the show code, and we're done with level 6.
Let's start level 7 and drag that here. Let's begin customizing the typeface of the poem. I'm gonna set the font to handwriting and the text effect as it is. Let's also go ahead and set the text color to purple or violet. I'd also like the background to be this color. So after that, let's go ahead and drag this to set the size. And let's add another sprite and put that here. I'm also gonna set the size to 100. After doing that, let's drag this to add an animation. And let's set that as it is. Let's set the go to line 6 and drag this so that the animation will stop and that the sprite will be removed. So after we removed the sprite, let's add another sprite that matches the mood of the poem. I'm gonna add a tree and put that here. Let's also add an animation so that the tree will do something. Let's give it a growing animation. I'm gonna go ahead and put another code for line 7. By doing this, the tree will have a stop animation and it'll be removed after. We can also customize again our poem by adding another background after the line 7 shows. Let's also not forget to set the frame to swirls. I'm gonna go ahead and give the tree a stop animation so that it will stop growing and it'll be removed from the poem once the line 7 shows. So after doing the task, we can click on the run button so that we can see our output. And that's the end for level 7. Let's now move on to level 8 and let's check this here. As you can see right here, there are pre-made codes, but we will customize it later. Now I'm just gonna add a set to size, the sprite, and a beginning animation. I'm also gonna add a stop animation and for it to be removed after a line is picked. So I picked line 3. I'm also gonna add a set size to another sprite, which is the boat. I'm also going to add another animation, but for the new sprite, let's customize the animation into shrinking, and then another code for another line, so that the previous sprite will have a stop animation and it'll be removed from the poem. So after doing all that, let's now customize the poem by setting the font to Arial Black and picking a color to set. I also set the text effect to as it is and set the background to this color so that it'll fit the poem itself. I'm also going to change the text color so that it'll fit better to the background color. We also forgot to set the code to line 4, so now we're going to set it and pick line 4. But I kind of changed my mind because maybe line 7 fits the animation more because it's a boat and it sinks. It's very important to understand the poem so that the students will be able to realize the mood of the poem and put codes that will fit. I added another background after the sprite stops and set the frames to this one. And now let's take a look at what we did by pressing run. And that's the end of level 8. So now we are at the last level of the activity, level 9. This is a custom poem. And so I went ahead and customized the typeface of the poem by setting the font to another font and the color, backgrounds, and the effect. I chose a poem to my liking and placed sprites that I desire because this is basically a level to test or just to have fun in making the code of the poem. And then as you can see right here, I just placed sprites to other locations in the poem and set its size to 75. I also added a beginning animation to fluttering and then made another code for line 3 so that the animation will stop and the sprite will be removed. After that, after the sprite will be removed, I added another sprite so that the poem will look cute. After adding another sprite, I added another animation so that it will do something when it appears. So of course, after learning the activity, we should put another line so that the sprite will be removed and its animation will stop. Let's also customize another background for the poem so that when line 5 shows, it'll have another new background. Let's also not forget to set the frame. I set the frame to flowers, and that's it. I clicked run, and this is what we got. So after completing the activity, we can see here that there are options to copy the link and finish the activity. You can paste the link and visit the website, and it'll link you to this. It basically is just your finished product of the activity itself.